Yo ho ho and a tub of body butter full of CBD. You're listening to KRFF 95.9 LPFM, RadioFreeFargo.org, streaming anywhere in the world you want to be. You can listen to us and listen to me, Wilson, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, every Thursday at 4 o'clock. Side stage with Trav 1 to 3. Then I jump in here at 4. I pedal around, I do some stuff, I dance a little. And then at 4:20, we talk about cannabis in a positive light. We open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and this Thursday's no different. I'm excited to bring you a bunch of stuff. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about. So let's get into it. Again, right after me, Stinky Arts Music Mart, Locals on the 8, Radio Free Madness, Black Ring Ritual. That's your Thursday. Don't forget Friday and Saturday and those other days. There's other stuff here. This is the best radio station in the world as far as I'm concerned. I would hope that you also agree with me. And we're going to talk about cannabis legalization, cannabis news in general. We're going to talk about Illinois a little bit. We got a little update on the whole robbery thing, but that's still going on. We're going to touch on the MORE Act a little bit. Normally, I don't like talking about federal stuff because they all suck and they'll let you down. I mean, the federal government, for me, is kind of like Lucy and Charlie Brown in the football. You think, is this the day I'm going to get to kick that pigskin from the girl who's cute? You get down there, she pulls the ball up and nothing. She Pinkett Smiths you. All right, that's the only thing I'm going to say about that. Because I just did, and I didn't even know I was going to. But anyway, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. That's what you're listening to here on KRFF 95.9 LPFM. I got new music I'm going to throw your way. And then again, the reason we're all here, 4:20, we're going to open a big fat bag of cannabis news. And I'm excited to bring that to you. I believe cannabis was made by God himself, our creator. And I worship and celebrate that fact at Antioch Church every Sunday at 10 a.m. However, we're moving church buildings, so it looks like we may be moving downtown. So that's going to be pretty exciting for me because I've been depending on a ride all the way to 40th Avenue and 25th Street to now be able to get into the church building proper in less than 5 minutes from my Gardner apartment. So that's pretty cool. And again, thank you for joining me. This show is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy. It's made with kosher, full-spectrum CBD. This body butter. It's good for neuropathy, pain, inflammation, eczema, psoriasis, diaper rash, dry and irritated skin, acne rashes, cuts, bruises, radiation, and chemo burns. It's anti-itching all over, soothing. 1,600 mgs of CBD, mango butter, shea butter, cocoa butter, and I'll throw this beautifully soft accent in, free of charge. Coconut oil, colloidal silver, turmeric, arnica, comfrey, myrrh, frankincense, sage, and rosemary. And I don't know about you guys, but that sounded pretty sticky cool in my headphones. But thank you, Black Cottage Alchemy, for sponsoring this show. And again, here we are. It's a beautiful day here in Fargo. Tochi Products has got the stinking Black Cottage Alchemy. You can, got the body butter, got hand soaps, everything you need. Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, blackcottagealchemy.com. I believe still odds dens in West Fargo, but I haven't touched base, so I don't really know for sure. But again, I love everybody. Welcome to this show about cannabis that we focus the positives. However, this whole burglary thing that's been going on around the U.S. is crazy. You know, I think it's nuts that they validate not doing anything because of the illegality, you know. But still, I mean, crime is crime. And we'll talk about it at 4:20. But let's get into a little Toonie Tunes. Here's brand new Matisse Yahoo. It's Tugboat 95.9. The Tugboat. Matisse Yahoo, that's brand new this year. The whole album isn't even out yet. I remember seeing this guy opening for Wookiefoot at it was this weird motel in Moorhead, and it basically used to be a skating rink inside. So in the center had all these squares of multicolored that would light up, and the stage would sit there, and so it was basically in a round, so you could look at the band all the way around in a circle, so you could basically walk around. And I remember he came out and he was full Hasidic Jew. He had like the little Brady things down. He had a little round cap. He was dressed like he was, straight out of Brooklyn Heights. And he just did some sort of like Israeli chanting, and then he beatboxed, and it was nuts. And man, that was like 2003 or 4. Anyway, you're listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I digress. Every Thursday, I get in here, sometimes through the window, sometimes through the door, sometimes through osmosis. But I get in here, 420, we open a big fat bag of cannabis news at 420. That's what we're creeping up on now. But I got some things I want to, hip you to. Talk Music venue, Saturday, April 2nd. That's coming up. 2022, your own tour, Dilworth, Minnesota. Talk Music, come through. I don't know what that is, but Friday, April 8th, Barely Alive at Talk Music. Saturday, April 9th, Trans Monolith, Careful Gaze, Halcyon Wander. Why they spelled it with an A, don't know. Poison Peace, Talk Music venue, Dilworth. If you've got money for a cab or you feel like, stretching out the Dewey wrist to get back downtown, feel me? It's a long ways to go for a show that serves brews. But that doesn't apply to me anymore because I'm sober. Yay! Thursday, March 31st, the Aquarium, a.k.a. the Fishbowl, a.k.a. above Dempsey's. We got Apollo Suns. That's Winnipeg funk for your ears. Cold Sweat and Four Feathers. 9 p.m. doors, 9:30 music. 10 dizzles will get you in. Or 0.0000000012034 Bitcoin will get you in the door. So come support local radio stations, and just local grinds, independent of the big man and their help. Lastly, Nitro Wave, Twin Cities presents a Synth Wave event, y'all. 4:30, 2022. 7:30 doors, 8:30 start, $10 pre, 12-day, North Innsbruck, Magenta Vice, Dimension Jumpers with a DJ set by D. Notive. Come check it out. Again, that's something we're doing, so come support local radio. And, give Aquarium some shine, too, because they love Fargo, and we love Fargo. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, that's what you're listening to. Right before me was Side Stage with Trav 1 to 3. Right after me, Stinky Arts Music Mart, locals on the 8, Radio Free Madness, and we're going to hit you with one of these. Music on 95.9, KRFF, LP, Radio Free Fargo, has been underwritten by Orange Records, a.k.a. Matt. Hi, Matt. Orange Records offers a variety of new and used music on vinyl and CD, as well as a large selection of posters, DVDs, and much more. Orange Records buys used vinyl, CDs, and cassettes. Orange Records is located at 641 First Avenue North in downtown Fargo, right across from yours truly's apartment. They are open noon to 6:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday and are closed on Sundays. Search Orange Records Fargo on Facebook for updates on new arrivals and special events. Now, I know Record Store Day, I think, must be coming up. I know I ain't seen anybody standing outside stinking Orange Records door at an ungodly, hour. So that must be coming up soon. And I do want to shout out the Record Store Day opener, get there really early, for being way quieter than the people who line up for the free comic book day in May 1st, actually. They're right underneath my window, and I'm telling you, the excitement of about 45 10-year-old kids to get their new Casper the Friendly, you can't sell it later anyway comic book is a great way to wake up. Just kidding. So again, cannabis, we're going to talk about it, 420. Maybe I'll hit you up with a little taste. We got, let's see here. We've got 7, 8 minutes. We got the 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to play some new tunes for you because you don't want to hear me talk. I got some brand new Kraftwerk and brand new Twiddle. Here we go. Home computer. Enjoy this Kraftwerk. It's trippy. Yeehaw. Welcome back, brothers and sisters. Home computer, Kraftwerk, last year. Good stuff. I mean, go back and listen. They were like the original kind of whatever, bleep, bloop, whatever they do. Distance Makes the Heart, Twiddle, brand new as well. I mean, I'm not a big Twiddle fan, but whenever I say Twiddle, my daughter giggles and it's hilarious. So, I mean, Twiddle's a funny word. And, to be able to say, put your hands together for Twiddle is pretty fun. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday I get in the studio. 420, we open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and in fact, I'm opening it right now. I'm stretching. I'm putting on my new green suspenders. And I want you guys to get ready. If you got a medical card, crush that ice up, playa. Get it in that cylinder. Gurgly, gurgly. Feel me? See you in a minute.
Yo, it's Wilson from Canna-Talk ND. The super awesome show you're getting ready to listen to. I think you should go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll wait. Okay, enjoy the show.
And why don't we stop at where he says Jay, huh? Welcome. Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing? Good? Good. I'm doing good too. Good. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. 420. Let's talk about cannabis, should we? I know I'm ready. Man, I had to wait through all that stupid music. Feel me? Man, I'm ready to talk about cannabis in a positive light. I brought my own headphones into the studio today, so I sound like Barry White meets Wilson. Anyway, cannabis moment. House formally advances federal cannabis legalization bill for floor vote, otherwise known as the Moore vote. It's not the best, and that's usually when you let the regulators regulate what you don't want regulated. It's just not going to be the way you feel, freedom and America should be. So I don't love promoting it because I don't think the federal government is my friend at all. And I don't think they're a friend of cannabis. They ain't a friend of God. They ain't a friend of nobody except their own lusts. All right, I'm just playing around. Okay, so let's talk about it. The U.S. House of Reps Thursday approved the final rule. They're going to push it to a floor vote. I feel pretty confident about it. Members on both sides were given the chance to debate. I don't know. The House will pass the Moore Act this week. It's clear that Congress needs to reform our broken cannabis laws. Let's see. House Speaker, she said, far too long failed drug policies have torn apart families and devastated communities of color. I would say that's called gaslighting, and she sucks. That's just my own personal opinion. Meanwhile, more than 600,000 Americans are still arrested each year on cannabis charges. So that's not good, But, if they really cared, we'd get it handled. So I don't want to focus on that. But like I said, there is movement, But again, we all know it's got to get to the top. And just look, case in point, stinking Delta 8. However, I hate Dougie less for stopping Delta 8. However, I think it's still in court in lieu of something. So I think you can still buy it. But, cannabis nurses and I'm not 100% sure of its quality and its purity, and whether or not we should be, messing with it, But, again, I used to do rails off the back of a toilet at a Castleton gas station that hadn't been cleaned in 6 weeks. So poor decisions is in my wheelhouse. So I don't want to get, get in the way of anybody else's poor decisions when it comes to Delta 8. However, I would use some discretion and make sure you know what you're getting. Because it's good. It's definitely minus a lot of things that makes, cannabis Delta 9 a little, the legality for one. And then there is some paranoia and some anxiety that can come from it as well. That's eliminated essentially from Delta 8. But again, if you have flipper babies from some sort of weird DNA genetic quirk that you didn't know happened, all of a sudden you start growing Delta 8 out your ears because it planted seeds and germinated in your digestive system. Just remember I said, be careful. All right, so again, pro-legalization GOP Congressman's office explains opposition to cannabis bill and offers resources to colleagues. So I'm not even going to talk about this guy. I maybe we'll come back to it if we have to. But anyway, cannabis moment. Again, Illinois Senate Committee abruptly halts, and I've been talking about this too, abruptly halts debate on bill to protect workers who test positive for cannabis. So I shouted out Illinois last week, and they began debate this week on a bill that would protect workers from being fired for using cannabis on their free time. With some exceptions, the measure would prohibit employers from firing workers. House of Representatives, they already passed a version of the legislation on a 61-41 vote earlier this month. At a hearing of the Senate Executive Committee, senators spent about half an hour discussing details of the bill. Sounds like they should have discussed it another half hour. Feel me? I got to stop saying feel me, sorry. Peters announced that he was pulling the bill from the record and would return to it later because there was a series of critical questions and details. So he says, I'm going to make this easier, he said in a response to a string of hypotheticals that only legislators can bog you down with. When certain workers could be fired under the bill, I'm going to pull this from the record and I'll come back. So Peters, earlier in the hearing, had expressed optimism that the discussion would proceed smoothly. It's a very negotiated bill. I'm very excited for a very simple, nice, pleasant conversation with everybody that didn't happen. So Illinois still sucks when it comes to employee testing. This is from MaryJane.com. New York Potency Tax. Now just wrap your little fried up eggnog head on that. New York Potency Tax may push legal weed, and I mean cannabis, up to 70 1/8. New York's proposed adult use cannabis taxes are so high that legal retailers may find themselves struggling to compete with cheap, illicit market cannabis. And that's what legislators just, that's why there's such a disconnect between reality and rational thought, and it's just a plant mentality, to doing exactly what they harp about. Oh, the black market. Oh, we need this. It's the black market. Oh, black market this. But in fact, it's the legal states' regulations that are forcing black market competition with cheap, illicit market cannabis. So is it the fact that some idiot legislator who is of the devil decided to legalize home grow? Do you think it was his fault? You think it's the dispensary taking care of grandma's, whatever that is in their eyes, cataracts? Almost said Cadillac, which if you've got a Cadillac in your eye, cannabis ain't going to help you, playa. All right. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday I get in here, 4:20, open a big fat bag of cannabis news on the best radio station in the world, in my opinion, KRFF 95.9. Thank you for joining me as we move through this segment where we talk about cannabis legalization. And right now I'm talking about New York Potency Tax. So there's imposing several separate taxes on cannabis. So a 9% sales, a local municipal tax, and a potency tax. So this latter tax adds half a cent for every, you got to start adding math to THC quantity, quality. Man. Okay. So every THC milligram present in raw flower, half a cent. 0.8 cents per mg for concentrates and 3 cents per mg for edibles. So, I'm not really good at math and stuff. I'm more of a consumer. But it sounds like edibles are getting taxed heavy. So, combined, these taxes could tally up to 30% for flower and 55% for edibles. And that's just wild. So with these tax rates in effect, an eighth of legal cannabis could end up costing $70 or more. Edibles will be even more expensive. These high prices will make it difficult for New York dispensaries to compete with the black market or legal pot stores in neighboring states. In Massachusetts, for example, the rate tax tops at 20%, and an eighth of legal cannabis can sell for as low as $50, and an eighth of New York's black market can be as cheap as $35. So I think that the THC potency tax is all negatives, and I think it has no redeeming qualities, said tax attorney. And I would agree. If these high tax rates make it difficult for New York cannabis businesses to stay afloat, they may be tempted to game the system by faking potency results. Oh, man, huh? What kind of Russian roulette you like to play there? Oh, this only has 15% THC in it. You get it home, it's got 90%. You going to be able to tell? I don't know. You might not be able to, but your aunt visiting from Maryland, who's like, yeah, maybe I'll give it a shot. I've been thinking about it. My friends at the Bridge Club, they've been telling me all about it. We've been drinking White Claws and talking about this cannabis. And you hit her with a 50, and you're like, hey, I got something that's only 15%. And then you got sucked into some weird system gaming hustle, and it's actually way higher. That sounds like a bad idea. So businesses may deliberately send the lowest THC buds out for testing in order to save money on the potency tax. Oh, other businesses may go so far as to fake the results. I'll holla. I feel you. Work it. Work your game, dog. New York's adult use law includes multiple incentives to help encourage smaller minority-owned businesses to get involved in the weed industry. And I wanted to say this. High Times Magazine. Most New Yorkers oppose giving first dispensary license to those with cannabis convictions. So I just mentioned all the different, allowances. And it seemed to me like I remember last week saying that, that they were going to give the dispensary license to those with cannabis convictions, and they said that they might have a problem with that. So, a new poll shows a majority of voters are against the state's recently announced policy to award the first 100 to 200 licenses to individuals previously convicted of cannabis-related offenses. So, that's, but while many social justice advocates applauded the measure, a majority of the state's voters are not on board. I don't think you should give it all. I don't know. A poll out this week found that 54% of voters in the Empire State oppose ensuring that early licenses go to those convicted of cannabis-related crimes or their family members. I'm in favor of giving some, I guess. But do they got to get them all? Because if they get them all, well, then that don't sound fair. Then it sounds like, the equality thing is back in play, right? You're out if you're not a prior criminal. I think it should be more about Curaleaf, them super monsters in Canada, to come and absorb all of it, take all the money, and nobody else gets any change. You know what I'm saying? So I'm down with that. But, I guess I have a rec, so it wouldn't matter to me. I'd be one of them. I'd get one. This fella did get a dispensary. Ha, 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 ha. Anyway, Democrats, a proposal produced a near even split. Okay, let's see what this guy says. Giving first dibs on cannabis license to those previously convicted divides the voters and Democrats. Strong majority of Republicans and white voters give it a thumbs down. Latino supported, 12 points, black by 11. New York Governor Kathy Hochul announced the first in the nation Seeding Opportunity Initiative and early investment to communities. Well, whatever. I don't care about that anymore. Let's see. Now, let's talk about this. This is also from High Times. Warrants issued for 2 teens in the fatal Washington dispensary shooting. And that's crazy because in my head, I was thinking older, like urban gangsters, for lack of a better word. Urds. I said more than one word. But anyway, 15, 16-year-old are wanted for murder as well as for their connection to a string of other cannabis dispensary robberies in the state of Washington. Now, because they hold on to a lot of cash and because we're in desperate times and everything's crazy, people just been robbing the snot out of these dispensaries. I mean, they're finding vans that are transporting funds to banks because there are some credit unions and banks that are accepting cannabis cash. But then, like I said to you a few weeks ago, is that federal cops and highway patrollees, they're figuring out which one of these vans are holding the cash, and they're pulling them over and ganking them. And yes, gank is a real word. It means take, if you're wondering. So warrants are out in Washington, allegedly involved in an armed robbery. Montrail Hatfield, Marshawn Jones are wanted in connection with a fatal shooting at Tacoma. I used to donate plasma in Tacoma, FYI. And at least 10 armed robberies at pot shops in Pierce and King counties. Used to grab meth in King and Pierce. Good stuff. Yeah, if you're a drug addict. I would say now it's not. On March 19th, an employee at World of Weed, wow, man, what a great name, in Tacoma, later identified as 29-year-old Jordan, was fatally shot in the neck. That's horrible. Hatfield fought with an employee behind the cash register. Jones fatally shot the employee in the neck. Let's see. Brown tossed the garbage bag back. He handed them garbage bags, ordered them to put all the money inside. Prosecutors have charged Hatfield with first-degree murder. The newspaper said the prosecutors expect to file charges against the teens. On the same day as the fatal robbery, Hatfield and Jones allegedly robbed a dispensary in Seattle and tried unsuccessfully to rob another in Tacoma. You see what I'm saying? I mean, come on. So anyway, check this out. Last week, citing data from the in-state trade group, the Craft Cannabis Coalition reported that there have been around 60, now this is in Seattle, or Washington State, there have been around 67 armed robberies so far in 2022, up from 34 and 27 in the last couple of years. I mean, whoa. So like I said, the SAFE Act needs to get passed. It would allow banks to provide financial services to cannabis businesses, something the federal prohibition on cannabis currently precludes them from doing, and it really is, it's dangerous, and I just can't believe it's a good idea. You know what I mean? I just can't see it's a good idea. So, this is from Cannabis. Where are we? Oh, boy. Hold on here a second. But, anyway, How are you guys doing? You guys good? Thank you for checking out Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I just wanted to read this article, and I just deleted it. So what you see me doing now is trying to recoup, but I'm not doing very good, so I'm not gonna belabor you guys, but I'm gonna try it one more time. Oh, still ain't gonna work. Okay, so let's talk about this cannabis moment. Louisiana lawmakers approve a bill to increase cannabis penalties for children but not adults. Louisiana lawmakers may put incarceration back on the table for possession of modest amounts of cannabis, but only for children and teenagers under age 18. I don't know what you guys think of that. Adults would still be able to avoid prison time if caught with cannabis joints, even for repeat offenses. Representative Larry is seeking to modify the state's sweeping cannabis decrim law that was enacted last year. House Bill 700 would impose harsher penalties on children and teenagers. So, the new law last year is if you're convicted of 14 G's or less, you cannot be fined more than $100, arrested, or thrown in prison. Bagley's proposal would allow a person under 18 convicted of the same amount could be incarcerated up to 15 days. And man, a youngster in the system as opposed to adult in the system, it seems backwards when you think about it, because you pop a kid in that has a little gram bag, that before the volleyball game or whatever, before they go play quarter games at the local billiards. Man, I'm old. But anyway, and then you pop him into an incarcerated scenario, he comes out a hardened thug with all kinds of knowledge on how not to get caught again and do it better. You know what I mean? So those penalties could be dramatically different than the ones adult faces. Under Bagley's bill, people over 18 could still be caught repeatedly and face no prison time at all. Bagley said the law change is needed because K-12 schools in his community are unable to keep cannabis off their campuses. Man, that's crazy. I remember back in the day, kids would talk about dropping acid and going to school. And I was homeschooled. Well, I went to private school after 5th grade, Christian private school at 5th grade in Southern Illinois. Then I homeschooled that same curriculum in North Dakota until I just stopped. And I never experienced that, but my friends would tell me like, yeah, I'd be sitting in math class and all the numbers would run off my page and run over onto the desk of the lady next to me. Or girl, I suppose. So I was like, well, what? And I've since done acid. And I'm thinking, how in the world could you go to school? And cannabis is so stinky, I don't even know what you're doing with it in a K through 12 school. And isn't that crazy, K through 12? You got a kindergartner, what, rolling blizzies in the bathroom? I don't know. I don't get it. A nickel a puff? It's crazy. But anyway, it was presented like this bill is about trying to put people in prison. It's not. Representative Nicholas Muscarello, who has generally supported loosening marijuana restrictions, agreed and said laws under minors' cannabis use needs to be tighter. And I don't know. We're trying to rehab children. This allows our courts to kind of keep them in check and put them in drug courts. No judge is putting a kid in jail for 6 months for cannabis. So, I don't know. But anyway, Peter Robbins says, we don't think we should be criminalizing youth more harshly than adults. And I kind of think so. So anyway, people under the age of 21 can be fined $100 and lose their license for up to 6 months if they're caught drinking alcohol. But they don't face jail time. Minors caught with cigarettes can be fined up to $50. Alcohol, in my opinion, would be gratefully more harmful than marijuana. Shout out Representative Danny McCormick. He expressed reservations about the incarceration component. He questioned why the offense for being caught with cannabis as a minor would be harsher than the one for being caught with alcohol. Shout out Danny McCormick. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday. 4:20 I get in, 4 o'clock I get in here. 4:20 I open a big fat bag of cannabis news. Now, let's talk about this from MaryJane.com. The feds charged less than 1,000 people with cannabis offenses last year, a record low since war on drugs began. In 2021, there was an 85% drop in Fed cannabis charges compared to 2012. Crazy, right? So, fewer than 1,000 people were charged. The first time that this figure has dropped to 3 digits since the war on drugs began. A decade ago, before individual states began legalizing, federal officials charged nearly 7,000 people with sales, possession, or trafficking. But as more states have legalized and support for legalization has grown, the rate of federal possession convictions has fallen. So, in 2012, the majority of Fed charges related to cannabis. Last year, less than 6%. The total number, I wonder where fentanyl is, that dirty blue stuff. The total number of overall federal drug convictions has also been falling considerably over the past decade. Federal convictions for powder and cracky crack have declined by 50%. I don't even know why, because that what? And only accounted for about 23% of all federal drug charges. Meth is now the most popular federal drug crime category, accounting for 48% of all cases last year. Convictions for fentanyl have also been rising steadily from near zero to over 1,500 last year. Even with the declining numbers, drug arrests still accounted for the largest single group of federal offenses. Racial disparity, half of all the offenders were Hispanic and black, 22.6 were white. I mean, that doesn't seem like a very big disparity, does it? I don't know. It doesn't seem like whatever. Although Congress has failed to amend federal cannabis laws, the attitudes have been changing. So again, that MORE Act could be something that helps us. What do we got here? That's what we got there. Now, let's talk about this. This is kind of interesting. Mike Tyson, he reportedly disarms a gunman with hugs, not slugs. Cannabis entrepreneur, the guy that came out with the half-bitten ear edible. Cannabis ambassador and psychedelic advocate. I mean, this is the guy that'll eat a big, fat handful of shroomy boobies and then go do a podcast show. I mean, what? Cannabis entrepreneur Mike Tyson has turned over his share of cannabis leaves. But if anything is a testament to his newfound cool, it's this. Last week, TMZ reported that an unidentified man approached Tyson and his entourage at a rooftop bar in Hollywood. During the middle of a stand-up comedy set, the man challenged Tyson to a fight to upgrade my status, which Tyson declined. Tyson, of course, only fights in the ring. He maintained his chill throughout the encounter and turned the man down. When the bar's MC tried to intervene, the man allegedly brandished a pistol and threatened to shoot the MC. Uh-oh. As everyone ducked for cover, the man soon expressed his regret at whipping out the gun. After an exchange of words, the man tucked away his pistol and Tyson hugged it out with the guy. According to TMZ, the LAPD was not contacted and no one was injured. Wow, that's crazy. You can pull a gun out in a Hollywood bar and not have the cops called? That's pretty cool, isn't it? But it seems crazy. Was this real or was it a publicity stunt? Regardless, Tyson used his mind and his words rather than his fists, perhaps proving that, yes, he's become less violent since he became an avid cannabis smoker. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Seems like it's pretty hard for me to believe a dude can roll up into a bar, brandish a pistol to the point that everybody's under the tables, and then Mike Tyson just got to hug a brother and then it's all done? I don't know. But Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday. I just hit you with a bunch of information. Google information for yourself if you want. North Dakota cannabis legalization, really, there's nothing in the works except for North Dakota Cannabis Caucus is trying to come up with a couple of things with the medical. They're going to try to get home grow in there. I think they're going to make it easier for physicians to prescribe it. And then I think they want to reduce cannabis fines to nothing for a certain amount. I'll keep you posted. But otherwise, nothing's going down in North Dakota. Nothing's going down. So, but I'll keep you posted. South Dakota legislative session is pretty much over. Medical cats are going to get 2 full mature plants and 2 seedlings. So, it's better than nothing. But boy, what a hard-fought battle those stinking advocates in South Dakota fought for cannabis legalization. I mean, between them and, like, say that Senator what's-her-name in stinking Nebraska are gangsters. And we need some of that here. to get this thing over the top. Because anybody that people listens to, they're still preaching the sin of cannabis. And again, I say every show, show me documented proof of back in the day Christians, specifically Pentecostals, my people, where they were against cannabis as violence inciting, where it turns you into bats, where they're like not in our churches because it was used rampantly for all kinds of stuff, agriculturally, industrially, medicinally, with no fear. Nobody was thinking we're sinning. It was the capitalist, racist prick, Anslinger and Hearst, and so that's all I'm saying about that. So it's interesting that this is usually championed by, dare I say, Bible thumping, better than yous, which I'm not, but I do have a relationship with the man upstairs. And again, I'm just not seeing it. And I would imagine he would show me some of that written articles and proof that cannabis was horrible for people. But I don't buy it. But anyway, that was my little spew for the day. Programming on KRFF 95.9 is being underwritten by Art Riot Promotions. Art Riot will design and print any business or personalized custom decal in a variety of shapes and sizes. Art Riot creates custom engraved gifts and promotional items. Art Riot offers flexi online or in-person consultations. Local in-store pickup or shipping is available for any order. Visit them at 819 Main Avenue, Moorhead. Art Riot is open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You can find them online at artriotpromotions.com and also on Facebook and Instagram. Well, yeehaw for everybody. We have gotten through another Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'll be back next Thursday at 4. Directly after me now, Stinky Arts Music Mart, locals on the 8, Radio Free Madness. And then directly after this, I've got brand new John Wayne and the Pain with G Love and the special sauce helping them out. This is Highway 2 and 95.9. Well, yeehaw. Kind of snuck a break in there. That was Highway 2, John Wayne and the Pain, and G Love and special sauce. Highway 2, as you all know, is north of us here, and it goes from Seattle all the way over to where it's cold. I think it's called the Atlantic Ocean. I could be wrong, but thanks for checking out Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday I get in here at 4:20. I open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and this Thursday's no different. Right after me and on deck is Stinky Arts Music Mart. He's raring to go. He's pushing me a little bit as we speak, so I'm going to hurry up and tell you that this show is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy, blackcottagealchemy.com, Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, or you can get yourself, electric motorcycle. Come on down to Tochi Products. Tell Joe Wilson sent you, and he'll point you in the right direction. Again, educate yourself so you can educate others on the benefits of cannabis. And together we'll get this thing legalized. I'll be back next Thursday. Again, stay tuned for Stinky Arts Music Mart. And without further ado, David Allen, Judgment Day. Peace.